Mark Carney is literally on a beach in Australia while President Donald Trump just slapped Canada with a 35% tariff. Inflation is spiking, mortgage renewals are crushing families, and our Prime Minister is nowhere to be found. Oh, and by the way, he never disclosed his Brookfield investments during the election. Let's talk. Hi everyone, my name is Raluca McKenzie, and I'm here today to talk about a lot of various topics that are very important for our economy today. So let's talk about Mark Carney first, because he's just completely missing. And I don't mean politically, I mean quite literally. While Canada is being hit with the biggest trade threat in years or decades, our Prime Minister is nowhere to be seen. Listen, I know burnout is a real thing, but this is not the time to be vacationing. There's been no press conferences, no emergency meetings. There's literally no leadership. He was photographed vacationing on a beach in Australia while Donald Trump slapped us with a 35% tariff. I mean, this is not just bad optics. That's just complete national negligence. And while he's been radio silent, guess what else came out? Carney never disclosed some massive financial interests, including ties to Brookfield and other major investment portfolios. We're talking about a guy making calls on economic policy while holding quiet stakes in companies that directly benefit from those decisions. That's textbook conflict of interest. Now, let's back this up for just a quick moment. When Carney ran his campaign, he painted himself as the adult in the room. Very calm, calculated, steady hand on the wheel. And his whole brand was this elbows up patriotism. Do you guys remember that? I don't think anyone can forget it. So it was a strong stance on trade, standing up to Trump, fighting for Canadians. That was the image. But now it's completely elbows down, in my opinion, head in the sand, completely MIA. And who's paying the price for all of this? I mean, it's you and I and all of Canada. So let's start with inflation. Stats Canada just reported that inflation ticked up again in June. Yes, it was a small increase, but even a small increase matters, especially right now. Because here's the truth. Inflation is the one number that can wreck an entire economy's momentum. And when inflation goes up, well, the Bank of Canada doesn't have a choice. They either hike rates again or hold them high for longer. And that's just bad news because we've got one of the most interest rate sensitive housing market in the developed world. Right now, mortgage renewals are coming in hot. Almost 2 million Canadian households are about to see their mortgage rates reset. We're not talking about small increases here. Some families are renewing into rates that are 3 or 4 times higher than what they signed up for 5 years ago. And now, because inflation just ticked back up, there's no rate relief in sight. And who knows this better than any of us? Mr. Carney. He used to be the Bank of Canada governor. He knows exactly what this kind of inflation data triggers in the bond market. And yet, while Canadians are sweating through mortgage renewals, struggling with food costs, pulling kids from sports programs, Carney's sipping flat whites in Sydney. That's a tongue twister. So now let's talk about housing. This inflation is happening during a total breakdown of housing affordability. You've got interest rates at decade highs, construction is completely collapsing all over the place, and banks are pulling out of lending. And now, inflation is sticking around longer than anyone expected. That's basically a death sentence for anyone hoping for a soft landing. Already, builders are delaying projects, pre-construction buyers are trying to back out, Homeowners are listing their secondary properties. And let's be real, investors are completely fleeing the market. You cannot run a real estate-based economy when borrowing costs are this high for this long. This new inflation, it basically guarantees that rates won't come down this summer. Some economists are even saying the Bank of Canada might need to hike again in the fall if inflation stays sticky. Now, that just means more pain, more delinquencies, and more panic. Now, let's layer in the trade crisis. Donald Trump sent Canada an official letter warning us of a 35% tariff on Canadian goods. I know there are exemptions, but really over 60% of the goods that cross the border are subject to this tax. Trump's wasting no time targeting countries that, in his words, were very difficult to deal with. So why is Canada getting hit with the full 35% while Mexico and the EU are only getting 30%? According to Trump, it's because we retaliated last time and because we didn't roll over. And now, instead of responding with strength, Carney's been completely absent. Again, not just politically, but physically. So let me say that again. While our country is being blindsided with one of the largest tariff hikes in our trading history, our Prime Minister is on vacation. Now, this isn't just about image. This is about leadership. When you're leading a country that's getting smacked with economic warfare from its biggest trading partner, you have got to show up, period. Your vacation can wait. Meanwhile, former foreign affairs officials, people who know how this game is played, are already warning that Carney's current trade outlook is a total disaster. One even said, and I quote, "It's bad news for our economy." Now, this is not like a tweet or anything. This is coming from somebody who really knows what they're talking about. And again, let's not forget, Carney built his brand on being Mr. Trade. He was supposed to bring this calm, globalist vision to Canada's economic future. But instead, what we're seeing is total disengagement. Now, let's talk about Brookfield scandal, because this one is quite disappointing. Mark Carney is still listed as a senior advisor to Brookfield Asset Management, one of the largest private equity and infrastructure investment firms on the planet. And guess what? Brookfield owns and operates billions in Canadian real estate, energy, and infrastructure. Exactly the sectors most impacted by federal policy. But here's the problem. Carney's personal financial interests and those of the companies that he's tied to were not disclosed during his election, or at least not fully disclosed. And that's a massive problem, especially for a guy who's now making decisions on trade, energy policy, infrastructure funding, and the housing reform. This should have been front-page news during the campaign. Instead, it's quietly come out after the fact. And now we're left wondering how much of Carney's policy agenda is actually about helping Canadians, and how much of it is about protecting his investment portfolio. Now, this isn't just speculation. That's just basic common sense. If the Prime Minister of Canada has financial links to the companies benefiting from federal contracts or policy decisions, the public deserves to know. It's not like a witch hunt, it's just being transparent. And while the economy is spiraling, while Canadians are cutting back, losing homes, and struggling with debt, we have a Prime Minister who hasn't held a press conference, hasn't explained his absence, and hasn't reassured the public on what comes next in a really long time. This is the opposite of leadership. Now let's zoom out for a quick second, just to make sure we're not missing the forest for the trees. Now, we've got a Prime Minister under fire for undisclosed investment ties, a housing market on the brink because of sticky inflation and looming mortgage renewals, A population completely buried in debt, an economy reeling from rising food prices, high borrowing costs, and shaky investor confidence. And now, to add to all of that, a 35% tariff letter from the US president targeting Canadian goods with zero clear response from Ottawa. And what's the message we're getting from our government? To be honest, to me, it just seems like it's pure silence. There's no plan, no reassurance, no retaliation, and no negotiation. So let's make one thing clear. I did not vote for Carney, but I was happy to give Carney a chance. I believe in giving anybody the opportunity to prove themselves. We can't just automatically assume that a leader is going to be bad because he is liberal. So because Trudeau did a terrible, terrible job for our country, it doesn't mean that Carney was going to do the same. So I was willing to give Carney a chance. But I must say, disappointment is a huge understatement. I mean, I know he's trying to help the steel and aluminum industry by investing in it. And I know he said that he's really trying to invest a lot into the country to pump that money through our economy. But so far, this tariff negotiation has been the biggest fail of any negotiation that I've ever seen unfold. Look, Canadians aren't asking for perfection. I don't think anyone should ask for perfection. We're not expecting a miracle. Because let's admit it, we are in a pile of shit and we got to get ourselves out. But we are expecting our leaders to show up, to be present, and to be accountable, especially when our entire economy is being thrown into a massive Vitamix blender. And to make no mistake, this is a big deal. Tariffs like this don't just hit the exporters or the importers. They ripple through the entire economy. To be honest, on both sides of the border. To say that tariffs are only going to affect Canadians because we're the ones being tariffed is not accurate. The importers and the US will also be impacted. But this makes goods more expensive for all of us. It makes supply chains slower. It reduces competitiveness. It hurts consumers, businesses, and workers alike. And they just add fuel to the inflation. So let's say we're importing vehicle parts or processed metals from the US, and now those will be crossing the borders multiple times. So those tariffs will now be applied to that product multiple times, depending on how Carney responds. So this will keep interest rates high, and we're just going to go in circles. More unaffordable housing, more debt, more defaults, more people falling through the cracks. Instead of addressing that cycle, Carney's team is pretending that it's not happening. I know a lot of the Carney fans are not going to love this aspect of the video, but if we were to be honest with ourselves, we cannot say that Carney is performing well for Canada. We were promised elbows up, and we got beach towels and boardroom conflicts. Maybe you're thinking, okay, but what can we actually do? What's the point of all of this? I mean, we have to apply some pressure. Carney won't act unless there's pressure from the public, from the media, from Parliament. It looks like he won't disclose unless people demand it. He won't show up unless people call him out. I mean, this is not just Carney. This is, in general, politicians. They react when pressure is applied. Because, truthfully, Canada deserves better than a prime minister who is on a beach during major conflicts that are happening between our countries right now. So, all in all, today, I am pretty mad and angry because I believe that we need answers. I think we need more transparency, and we need great leadership right now. because our country needs it now more than ever, before things get completely out of hand. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Please give this video a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I will try my very best to bring you more videos like this. Have a wonderful day.